Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Virtual Cheese Awards 2023, showcasing the best of British cheese. I'm Gautam Krishna. I'll be moderating this session. Joining me is Emma Young and Nigel Pardon, our judges for today. Highly qualified, amazing people. Judges, if you'd like to introduce yourself, Emma.
Hello, I'm Emma. I'm a cheese consultant, so I help open cheese retail businesses around the world. I also am a part-time cheese writer. I've just released my first book coming out in August.
Nigel.
Hi, I just do what Emma says, basically. I've been reading a book, talking about it. I'm a broadcaster, food and drink broadcaster predominantly. Work with Simon Mayo on Great Hits Radio, on BBC Radio London as well. I've been with the BBC since 1990. And my role is to champion artisan food and drink producers. Virtual Cheese Awards, British Cheese Awards, World Cheese Awards, Farm Shop Deli Awards, Great Taste Awards. It's just all about giving the smaller people a bit of a voice, and we have 3 million listeners, so we can do that. But yeah, and love cheese, and I'm very excited about the prospect of tasting today.
Amazing. So in today's session, we will be judging washed rind cheese, which is also sponsored by the Crafty Cheeseman. Now, the judges will be scoring the cheeses on a point-based system. So for each of the 5 attributes of the cheese, they'd be assigning a score, and in the end, the cheese with the most points go through to the next round and wins the round. And the first cheese that we're starting with is E21155. Judges,
Brilliant.
if you want to start out with the appearance of the cheese.
Cool. So beautiful orangey pink hue, nice and deep, nice colouring to it, and mine looks very, very even. How does yours look?
Yeah, it does. It does. It's yes, it looks very enticing. Got a little bit of scoring on the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite tactile, tacky, and I rather like that about it. And yeah, can't wait. Well, it smells enticing for a start. I know I'm going a bit early on that side, but it beckons me on.
I mean, it is one thing to note immediately, as Nigel said, it smells delicious immediately, so it's hard not to note it right from the beginning. Appearance-wise as well, when you cut it open, it's quite hard to see my camera, but it's very sort of clean looking, very smooth, nice ivory to yellow colour. It looks beautiful. There's not much to fault on it in appearance at the moment for me.
No. And
what would you like to score it out of 10, Nigel?
When you cut into it, it's I mean, again, the nose just washes over you, but it is pretty uniform as well. I mean, it looks like a proper artisan cheese for a start. It looks like it's made with love, but it's pretty consistent as well. Yeah. And appearance, I'm quite an optimistic judge generally. I always try to work from the top down and everything. So I would think, it might be about an 8. Is that what do you think, Emma? You've done more of these. I normally host these, and we'll be doing in a couple of weeks' time. But to actually sit down and taste it like this on the screen, I'm losing my Virtual Cheese Awards tasting virginity today.
So, yes, I'm taking Virtual Cheese Awards virginity.
Be gentle with me.
Brilliant.
I think that the rind, the paste, everything looks absolutely beautiful. The only reason I would bring it down slightly is because there is a sort of a few dry patches on it, which are making me think that the rind might be a little bit drier than I'd be expecting in this style. So I'm happy with an 8.
Yeah, happy with an 8.
You think it's a 7?
No, it's an 8. It's definitely an 8. That's good. Yeah.
That's 8 for the aroma. For appearance, that one. To the aroma.
It smells beautiful. As we've said already, it's the first thing that comes off this when you open it. It stinks in a good way, in a very washed rind, sort of farmy, barnyardy way on the rind. So it's not hiding that it's a washed rind cheese, which is a nice thing. On the paste, I've got quite a lot happening. Some sort of savoury, meaty bovril notes happening. Quite like the aroma. I think I'm pretty similar in aroma to appearance, so I'm around a sort of an 8-ish.
Yeah, it is one. I mean, I love all that sort of umami, truffly, mushroom notes. It's there from the minute you unwrap it, before you unwrap it, but in a good way. It's in really good condition. It's absolutely every cheese has its day, and I think this could be a Friday for this one in April because it's in really good condition, but it smells good. Yeah, make you think, oh, I want to taste that, from the aroma alone. So I'm very happy with an 8 there.
Perfect.
That's 8 for the aroma. Moving on to the texture.
So texture, I think there's quite a few different textures here. So if we squish the paste, the rind, and also feel the mouthfeel and then judge it, I think that's probably best because there's a lot of different textural contrast going on here. I'm gonna. That's the first thing I've put in my mouth today, and it's a full-on washed rind cheese.
Might be a second. I managed to wedge a toothbrush in a few hours ago, but
Well, that too, but
yeah. Well, not a bad breakfast, I have to say. But opening up, it's very continental having cheese for breakfast. A washed rind one.
yeah.
Let's take our word for this, Paul. You haven't got these cheeses, so I'm feeling really.
No, I don't.
That's teasing. So for me,
is.
the texture of the actual paste is good. It is slightly coating my mouth, so the paste itself is a tad cloying. The rind is there. It's toothsome. I usually like a slightly more integrated rind texture with this kind of style, but it's not completely distracting. And yet, I mean, to the touch, it feels sort of perfectly tacky. The rind is the only thing distracting me at the moment from texture. What about you, Nigel?
Yeah, in the mouth, just definitely you're aware when you're chomping on the rind. It's a slightly chalky and gritty. It's a little bit. You get that on your fingers as well when you've been holding it for a while, and it's. I love the flavour, but I do think that it is, as you say, the rind. But the two of them don't really melt together that much. So it's distinct. So I would mark it down on that point.
Agreed. I think the other criteria, we're definitely looking higher at the moment, but for texture, it is letting it down a bit. So I'm around a 6 for texture.
Yeah.
A 6 for the texture.
Yes, fine, good with that.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
And then the flavour, lots happening. Really savoury, umami, bovril, meat, pate. I've got loads of things happening. It's a nice complex journey.
Yeah.
It's good. The salt's good too.
Yeah. I get that. I mean, with a cheese like this, I would eat the rind. But if I do, I am conscious that the rind does taste different, to the bulk of the cheese. So that's something which I would, think, well, that wouldn't be perfect. I would like, again, it to be more integrated in the taste of the two. Good as it is, I think it's a lovely taste, and I love that very distinct washed cheese. It's got that lovely gentle acidity. As I say, those mushroom notes come through really in the flavour, and but as I say, the only thing it's the rind is just it's too distinct, compared to the bulk of the cheese.
I agree, and there's a little bit of volatility on the rind as well, so I think it is slightly disjointed. That's a shame because the flavour of the actual paste is really delicious, and the texture of the rind is creeping into the flavour as well. So I'd also mark it down, but not loads, because the flavour would have been enormously high. So I'm sort of 7.5, 8ish instead of 9 and above. Where are you?
Optimistic. Me too. I'd go for 8 because I still love the flavour, and I really like it. So it's a great cheese, and it's a great way to start. And by
Perfect. 8 then, Gotham. Thank you.
Come out the garden. Here you go. I'm going. I can see you're munching on, but I wish I could teleport this to you, both of you, just again kickstart your heart, get a bit of vitamin C in us.
Amazing. That looks delicious.
We're underway. Thank you.
8 for the flavor, and that we're done with this cheese. Moving on to the next cheese.
Yeah.
You're ready, judges?
I want to shout the number.
Yeah. So the next cheese is E21141.
Okay. Funny enough, just to confuse things, I normally, whenever I'm judging great taste, whatever it is, I always mark out of 20. Anything above 15 is really good. And that would be like a 16 and a half cheese to me, which is good. It's one of those that any cheese board would be lucky to have this cheese on it. And I think that's, you know, it's up there. It's a really nice.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the flavour's weighted double, isn't it, Gotham? So it's
Yes.
technically
Yes,
about a
yes.
16 and yeah. So that's perfect. Do you have the next cheese?
Yeah, I'm just going to get a tray.
Yeah, no worries. I'll do a little dance or a little singing interlude. I won't do that.
TikTok. Have you seen we've got a spy behind us?
Yes, I did
Oh,
notice
hello.
that. Yes.
That's Jack. Let's better off we don't get his attention.
Does Jack like cheese?
Jack's on no, he's just he likes squirrels and rabbits. So he's on duty at the moment.
Good boy. Wicked. So we've got this cheese next.
Yeah. Okay.
Brilliant. So yeah, this cheese is hello.
Hello, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Everyone well? Happy?
Yes, we are. We're tasting cheese. We've had toothpaste and now we're on to cheese. Some morning.
Not together. Not together. That's irregular. Perfect. So we are onto this next cheese, which has a really lovely sort of slightly matte peachy appearance. I love the geo wrinkle around it. It looks very well looked after, I'd say. So for a washed rind, it has got nice colouring and nice geo. It hasn't got any cracks on mine or discoloration. It looks like it's been kept quite well from the outer appearance.
Yeah. Again, it's cliche, but it looks as though it's made with love and tenderness and care and time. Turning gone on this again. It looks like a great artisan farmhouse cheese. You know, you see that and you think, oh yes, got to tackle into that. It just looks perfect for our criteria.
Agreed. And when you cut into it, it looks even more appealing. So I hope you can sort of see there. It's got an incredibly beautiful feathered texture, a slight breakdown beneath the rind. The paste looks like a sort of a lactic curd. I really want to eat these. I think it looks beautiful.
So how much would you score for the appearance?
So for me, what did we give for the last one? We gave
An 8.
Yeah.
I think this is higher. The only thing that wouldn't let me give it sort of full marks is because possibly it could do with just a tiny bit less uniformity, which is a weird thing to say, but maybe a bit more wrinkle, maybe a bit more colouring to it, but it is stunning. So I am about a 9.
Yeah, well, that's great. And as a person who is now attracting wrinkles, but no, very good, very consistent. As you say, great paste. And you can. Are we told anything about the cheeses apart from that they're wash rind? We've got no more information. Again, but if you look at the colour of the cheese there, that lovely creamy element, you think, oh, I'd love to know that, you know, the milk that's gone into that. It's beautiful, and I love the colour, and I love. We'll come to the texture in a minute, but it's a beautiful looking cheese. So I'm very happy with it. Well, actually, you gave it a 9, didn't you?
I gave it a 9.
With a 9.
Yeah.
Let's go with that.
Yeah.
9 for the appearance. Moving on to the aroma.
So the aroma for me it's there, but it's quite simple. I have got a little bit of ammonia on the rind, and it's not jumping out in aromatics for me. The rind, sorry, go on.
You finish. Go on.
I was going to say the rind, I'd usually expect a little bit more to be coming off that, maybe a bit more sort of funk, maybe some fruit. All I'm getting is a tiny bit of ammonia on the paste. It smells super clean. There's nothing wrong with it, but there's nothing amazing coming off it either. Yeah,
when you consider we've just followed an amazing wash rind cheese, which was really beckoning you on. It's quite a tough act to follow. I do think I'm not getting ammonia on mine, fortunately, and so I am getting. It is that much more subtle, gentle than our previous cheese, but I still think, oh yeah, I'd like to tackle that. So I've seen it's beckoning me on with the eye and now with the aroma. But yes, it's not as complex as the previous one, but it's still pretty enticing. So
yeah. What would you score it?
would give it 8.
Okay.
And
Could we bring it down to 7.5?
Absolutely, Emma. Of
Is
course,
that fine?
you want to,
Yeah.
yeah. I know you've got a touch of ammonia on yours, so 7 or 7.5. I'd be good with that.
Okay, perfect.
7.5?
7.5, because we gave the other one sort of 8ish, and I think
Yeah.
this is definitely a slight step down from that in terms of aromatics.
Moving on to the texture of the cheese.
Beautiful. From the look, it is textbook lactic cheese. Really, really nice breakdown beneath the rind. The rind looks like it has integrated ever so slightly into the paste, but it looks really enticing.
Yes, I didn't even see that, but it is beginning to melt beautifully. You know, again, it's really coming into good condition, and I love that. And I think, oh, that's perfect. I mean, mine have been out the fridge for maybe a couple of hours, an hour and a half, so they've had time just to relax a bit, and you can see that, and you think, oh, I mean, you immediately think, I want to eat that. I want to really tackle that, So lucky me, I'm going to.
Mouthfeel wise, it is it's nicely silken under the rind. I do get ever so slightly drier a curd than I would expect in a cheese of this style, sort of a lactic. It looks like a lactic, or it could be a really young bloomy wash, but I find a tiny bit of a drying element to it, so I was expecting slightly more sort of feathered, open and silky from the look.
Yeah. Yes, it's good. The texture is actually quite different to what I was mentioning. I thought it was going to be, a little more softer, gooey, all the technical terms coming out now. And but actually, it's almost got that type of drier Wensleydale, type of. It is quite dry in the mouth. I don't think that's a bad thing. It's just not what I was anticipating.
Agreed. I wonder whether that was the intention of the cheesemaker, though. So I don't know if this could possibly have done with perhaps another week of maturing to get it to a really, really delicious stage of a little bit more breakdown. So for me, I am going to mark it down slightly for that, because to look at, I was really, really enticed. It looks feathered. It looks like all of those sort of smooth textures will come in your mouth, but it let it down slightly in drying. So I am about a 7.5.
7.5.
Yeah.
Where are
Nigel?
you?
Yeah. I would go with 7.5. I still like. It's not what I anticipated, but I still like it.
Okay.
Yeah, 7.5. Let's leave it like that.
7.5 for the texture. Moving on to the flavor of the cheese.
You start.
I like the flavor a lot. As I say, it's not what with the wash rind cheese, I was expecting to be slightly more pungent, a bit more punchy, but I like the subtlety of it. And I think it's a lovely contrast to the previous cheese. So again, on a cheese board, that's nice. You've got two very different cheeses, but both really. The other one was a bit more stand out, a bit more classic, but this one I like. I mean, I would be really intrigued to think Emma, how you think this might change within a week and another week's aging, whether it would necessarily change for the better, or do you think that's matured out to where it is?
I think that from the flavour, I was expecting a little bit more depth. So I wonder whether perhaps an extra wash or a week extra in a maturing room would really lend well to this recipe. Flavour wise, it is very gentle, it's refined, it's clean, it's really subtle, and as you said, Nigel, it's a nice contrast to the other one. You don't want every wash trying to be bold and punching you in the face, and that obviously isn't the aim of this cheese, but I do think just a little bit of extra pushing it on slightly would get the flavour up a little bit more. It is, however, starting to slip out of the rind, so I wonder whether that's why they sort of sell them at a younger age.
Yeah. I wonder whether in a week whether it would actually improve or not. I think maybe flavour wise, this is where we're at, and I like it very much. But yes, I know what you mean, and with the texture and that slight chalkiness, it's a good cheese. It's not a outstandingly great cheese, but it's a good cheese.
Agreed. What would you score it?
And yeah, we're doing this out of 10, aren't we? Are we doubling up on these? Yeah. So
yes. Yeah.
No, you just go with 10.
Yeah,
It just automatically doubles.
I would give that 7.5.
I'm happy with that. That's fine. Yeah.
7.5.
Okay. I do think that you're right though, with this batch in particular, I don't think a week extra would help it in that it would slip out. However, in general for this style of cheese, if they were to change the age profile maybe by an extra week for the next batches, I think that would really, really help it with its flavour.
Yeah. Yes, that's a good feedback. Really good.
Moving on to the next cheese, that's E21110.
Guys, thank you.
I love how Sarah can just like dot in and out.
Yeah.
It's like teleporting.
Yeah.
Have you got it? Yeah, wicked. So we're back to funk.
Yeah.
Woo! 9:30. Cool.
Oh.
Similar noise. All right, so we've got half a cheese here. Really nice size for a wash rind. So we've looked at sort of small formats at the moment, which I really enjoy. Wash rinds can be a right pain in the ass to serve and to have on your counter. So small formats are a really nice thing from a retail perspective. The color is very pink. It's incredibly tacky. And this one really does pong as soon as you open the packet. So appearance wise, I think it's got a sort of a tack to it, which is normal, but it's got a whitey hue on top of that, which isn't jumping out to me as much. Don't know what you think, Nigel.
Yeah, mine looks, well, it's typical because it's half and it's been cut, so it does look a little bit plasticky, but I think that's probably because it's been
That's
wrapped.
the back, isn't it? Yeah.
But it's slightly anemic on the outside, but it looks okay. It's wait till we get to the aroma. That's the thing. Let's amend the taste. So at this stage, yeah, it looks fine, and I'm thinking, yeah, let's move on. I definitely want to taste it. I want to know more about it.
In terms of scoring for appearance, though, I think the slightly anemic thing is a big factor for me. The rind looks. It's just not as appealing as I think it could be. I think this sort of pale pink is fine, but with the tacky sort of, it looks like it's almost been coated with Vaseline. There's like a slightly strange hue to it. The paste itself isn't too bad, but I'm sort of sitting around a 7 for appearance.
7, I think that's quite generous. Fine, 7.
6.5. I'm also very happy. I thought I was going in Nigel scoring.
Well, I think let's go with 7 because I think let's move on to the aroma and then we. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, got you.
7
So
for
aroma.
appearance.
7. That slightly frightens me on the aroma. Yeah.
So it's quite bodily.
Yeah. I'm getting like hamster. This isn't me. We have had many hamsters over the years, and sometimes the cage, after a few days, that's what it does. And guinea pigs, it slightly has got that type of aroma to, and that's. I wouldn't say it's pleasant.
Yeah, I mean, yes, it's not giving off what we'd maybe expect for characteristics. We know wash rinds do have a stench, and that is characteristic of them. This is slightly dirty in an aroma, I would say. So a little bit sort of barny, but dirty, sort of slightly unclean flavor aromas coming through. So I'm quite low on this for aroma.
It is quite farmyardy, aroma, ammonia coming through, but it's yeah. What would you say?
4.
I would say no. I give it 5.
5's fine. Yeah. Okay. 5.
5 for the aroma. Moving on to the texture of the cheese.
Okay.
Now mine in the paste is beginning. It looks a little bit lined and slightly dry.
Yeah. Yeah, so it looks like it should be quite a nice sort of an even sort of pudgy texture, and you can see around the rind, just under the rind, probably
Yeah.
not on here, but there is a halo where it is a lovely texture, but it hasn't quite gone all the way through, so it's got a very, very firm core, hasn't it?
Yes, it's very dense, really solid.
It's very pasty in the mouth as well, so whereas sometimes you'll get a bit of paste and that's fine, this is quite coating the mouth. The rind itself I didn't try texturally. I don't think the rind's integrated texturally. It feels like it would be something you cut off, and one thing we've already mentioned on this session is that we want to eat a rind on a washed rind, but this feels as though it would be something that you'd remove, and I don't think that that's something that I'd be looking for in this style.
No, it's too much like hard work. It does, yeah, it doesn't integrate enough to make you want to eat it, the rind. So, I think, you know, which is a pity. I mean, yeah, it's a very chunky, solid cheese, you know. I mean, it's certainly well encased, and that you wouldn't really want to eat the casing.
Agreed. What would you score it for texture?
Texture, it's not obviously faulty. 6,
Sorry.
6.5, yeah.
6 I'm happy with as well. Yeah, I think 6 is good.
6 for the texture. Moving on to
Then
the flavor of the
In
cheese.
flavour, I've got, again, some of those slightly unclean flavours from the aroma have come through onto the palate. It has got quite a nice balanced umami savoury note, but then there's spikes of barnyard. There's quite a distracting acidity going on as well, and the aftertaste left in my mouth is not something I would really want to keep going back and back and back to.
No.
Yeah, what do you think?
It's got lots of layers to it, which I like. I like that the flavour does come in layers, but I think the overall lingering one is that it is a little bit caustic and a little bit sharp, and that those farmyard notes, basically that's what you're left with. And I'm looking for something a more sweetness. I'm looking for, you know, something that's more creamy. So I would mark it down in that. It definitely comes out in different layers, which I like, but the overall finish is a little harsh. So
yeah. So for me, score-wise, I'm a sort of 6.5, 7 for me. Where are you sitting?
I think that's, yeah, good. That's fine. I'm happy with that. I would 6.5. Yeah.
6.5. Moving on to the next cheese will be E21054.
So we have a bright orange square, still on sort of small format washed rinds. So a very nice size. I like the depth of it. So I've seen some, I mean, it's a little bit uneven in depth, but I'm not finding that an issue at all. I quite like that. It shows that it's not hugely uniform or industrial. So I'm not at all worried about the wonky depth, unless it affects it for maturing, which we'll see in a minute. The color itself for me, yeah, really like carrot orange, really, really bright. Have you got it?
No, you carry on.
Square shape in
You said
paper.
1454 or
1054. 1054.
1054.
So the only thing I would mention for me on the rind, from a sort of a mold perspective, it is a little bit unevenly coated, and as much as I don't mind the sort of the wonky texture, I wonder whether that's just a little bit of unevenness within the cheese make for the molds not to want to grow consistently over the cheese itself. Can you see it's sort of grown here?
Yep.
So I wonder if there's some slightly differing rind issues, but at the moment it looks interesting. I'll cut into it for, have you not got it? Have you got any squares? Not that one, it's not in a box, it's just in this kind of plasticky paper.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Got it. Sorry.
amazing. Yeah, no worries. And then when I cut into it, it looks very sort of continental Normandy style wash rind, which is lovely. So it's got some little holes within, nice pudge to the texture. We'll just let Nigel get into it and have a look at the appearance as well.
Yeah, I mean, that does. You think, oh, that's a really, it's a pretty cheese. It's certainly not anemic.
It is not anemic. No.
Yeah. Interesting with yours. I've got holes in one half of it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But not the top half. But again, that stuff screams artisan, interesting to me. But for you, what does that indicate with the holy nature of it? The air pockets.
So ideally they would be consistent throughout. So you know that the ladling has been consistent. They've managed to make it all in one go, and they have flipped them and they have turned them correctly and at the right time frames. I wonder whether it could have done with an extra flip, or whether they had a different person ladling for the second ladle. There's all these different things which really do make a difference. So yeah, it is slightly irregular to have it half in your way. So that to me screams that something's happened differently in the cheese make room.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, you see this, you think, yeah, appearance, well, that looks, just, you know, think I want to try that. That looks good. It looks in good condition. It looks fun and well made, and that does to me. As I say, it's just it's like not warning bells, but I'm just intrigued by that. But I think it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think again, not warning bells like you said, but I noticed with mine has definitely got a bit of a wonk in its height, so that will definitely be something to do with the ladling or the flipping or how they've stored it. So there's something in the make room that's, like we said, it's definitely artisanal, and that's great. Yeah. And it does look it, and that's a really good thing, but maybe watch that in case it does affect the maturing and the actual
so what we give it appearance wise?
So how are we scoring for the appearance?
I think like a 7.5, 8 maybe. Yeah,
I just think, you know, if again I had got cheese, I think, wow, that's lovely. Look at that, you know. Yeah,
I think 8's nice. Yeah,
8 for the appearance. Moving on to the aroma of the cheese.
Unfortunately, I'm getting a lot of ammonia on my one.
Funny enough, when I first cut into it, I really did.
Okay.
Now it's been cut. It's dissipated somewhat. Still there.
Yeah.
But it's not, initially I thought, oh my goodness, you know, it was one of those moments. But
I think agreed. Like with that would definitely happen as soon as you open the packet. So the first aroma we got, we're still going to judge because that's what happens. But as Nigel said, it has dissipated. It is not a complete sort of gas fest on the road now.
No, thank goodness.
Yes, it's a good thing it's dissipated. Yeah. Have you got much on the paste?
When you think of what cheese is made from, and sometimes the joy of it, but they taste of anything but what the ingredients might suggest. And I always think that's a nice thing. That's the joy of the variety of cheese that's available to us.
I don't get anything sort of dirty or unclean on it.
No,
but again, it's
I get like chestnuts and everything. It was a slightly oaky, sawdusty, but not in a bad way. You know, when you first cut into wood, you get that lovely sort of sweet woody element.
Yeah, it definitely has got a sweet. Yeah, yes, exactly. I get something similar.
So it's again, having it's a lot better than when I first cut it. I thought, oh my goodness, we're in trouble here just because of that ammonia. And it just shows, doesn't it? That you give it a little bit of time.
Exactly.
As well of cutting it on a board and letting it breathe a bit. If you've got that luxury rather than a new cheese.
Where are you sitting on aroma?
Initially, it was definitely it was the aroma, the ammonia really shone through initially, and I do remember. So 6.5.
Yeah.
6.5 for the aroma. Moving on to the texture.
So for texture, I've already put cheese in face. The rind itself is, it's a little bit chewy. It's a little bit more present than perhaps it could be for a washed rind, not as integrated as this recipe would suggest it should be. Obviously, it is good to have textural contrast and flavor contrast. However, they still do integrate. So this one feels a little bit disjointed. Mine's got, I don't know about yours, mine's got a slightly chalky heart, which is something I actually really like in soft cheeses. But if we're being purists, perhaps it could do with an extra few days. But I really enjoy that sort of slightly acidic core with the fatty paste. So for me, I'm not having a problem with that. It's only a very, very slight chalky heart as well.
Yeah, no, I don't, and I, of all of the cheese we've had so far, I like the integration of the rind. I'm happy chomping through it. I am aware that it's rind, but not in a bad way. I don't.
Yeah.
It's not hard work. And I'm loving that type of gentle sweetness there to it, that long, lingering. It leaves a lovely finish in my mouth and in the pit of my stomach. You know, I'm happy with that, and it's a good journey south. So yeah, it's quite interesting as a cheese, the different elements of joy of it, from that initial hit of ammonia, that comes through, and maybe it is slightly inconsistent, but I just think, well, what a great artisan example. It may be more consistent, but it's still, I like the cheese, and I do like the flavour. I think it's yeah.
Yeah, me too. I think texturally it is possibly my favourite so far, going back to it again. I think it really does remind me of the style that I'm wondering whether it's emulating. So that sort of Normandy style of like Pont l'Evêque, Camembert, those kind of styles. And I think that as much as I think the rind could do with maybe a little bit more tack, going back, it is actually quite integrated. So I sort of go back a little bit there. And I do like, even though the chalky heart is there, I like that a lot. So and the flavour is actually really, really rounded. So I was expecting a lot more sort of spike everywhere, but it is actually really lovely and rounded.
So how much would you score for the texture?
8.5. 8.
8.
Where's Nigel?
Well, it's just because it's just really tricky, but when you look at it, it is a little inconsistent, but it's beautiful. You know, it's really, and I love the fact that it is beginning to melt and ooze a touch. So probably that is a slight fault because it's not consistent all the way through. So it's an 8, but it's great. And then as I'm looking at it, I'm tasting it as well. And I'm thinking, gosh, that's really lovely. And what a lovely, long, pleasant finish.
Yeah.
You know, I'd like that. I'd like that flavour to loiter for quite a while. That's a lovely sign in the cheese.
That's
I think texturally, 8 for texture. I think texturally, if yours was consistent, and perhaps if that tiny chalk line had gone, it would be a 10. So it is a texture which I really, really enjoy, and it's only very, very slight things we're picking up on which are bringing it down slightly, but otherwise this texture it's well executed generally, so it would be a 10, I think, for me otherwise.
Moving on to the flavor of the cheese.
I'm really enjoying how much of a washed rind flavour comes through without the aroma of a washed rind. So that's quite unique. It's really clever. You get those sort of farmy, meaty, nice farm, clean, lovely farm, meaty, brothy notes coming through, which you expect in a washed rind. But you don't get so much of that on the aroma, but I'm actually really enjoying that flavour. I keep sort of dipping back into it. It's very nice and savoury.
We're so near to the cheese, tasting it as we do. You know, you can't help but smell it all the time. And the aroma is quite different in the mouth. That in the mouth, it's much softer and gentler, more rolling. I do like that it comes at you in layers, and it's a lovely. And as I say, just it does leave a lovely finish in your mouth.
Yep.
And you know, again in your stomach. So I like that. I mean, yeah, 9.
I think 9. It's really good. It's the integration. So the fact that we keep going back to it, the fact that it's balanced and it's really rounded, but you have got a journey. It's not simple. I think that's a fair score.
9 for the flavor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Moving on to the next cheese, E21055.
So I'm just giving this a bit of a scrape because the plastic has definitely squished it a bit and sort of started to bring the fats out.
Yeah, so yeah, E21055.
1055.
Thanks so very much. Cheers. Thank you.
So we've moved on from small format, heavily washed drying cheeses now onto what looks like a wedge of quite a large format wash, which is exciting. So different style. So it's natural rinded. I don't know if you can see there. So yeah, some natural mold rinds, but it's been looked after quite well. We've got a nice array of different molds on there. It's not tacky, it's not mighty, it's slightly flaky is the only thing I would say about the rinds, but the paste colour is really appealing. Nice sort of dark ivory into yellow. So wash rinds we generally look at in terms of really stinky pink and orange. However, washing doesn't always mean that it has to stink, and you can have cheeses like this and cheeses like Alpine styles as well, which have had a brief wash and then they're rubbed. So this may not look like a typical wash rind, it is sort of what I'm getting at, but it has possibly just had a few. You can see from the rind here, from that sort of tack, that it has had a wash in sort of a brine solution perhaps, but yeah, it's not your typical stinky funk, which is exciting.
Yeah, and that's nice as a category, isn't it? But you know, you've got a whole range, which is what you should have. And you should say this is a a decent. I'm trying to think how many kilos. It's certainly maybe 5,
6, 8. I think is right here, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes. I'm pretty consistent as well. I'm just moving ahead to texturally and everything. It's got a few bumps and grinds, but it's an artisan cheese.
How are we looking appearance and score wise?
8. You happy with that?
I'm happy with 8. Yeah.
8 for the appearance. On to the aroma of the cheese.
So with this, go. No.
Initially, but it's not quite there yet. It's might still be work in progress. I won't know till I taste it, but
cut a wedge of it. So the packaging never does it a huge amount of favors. So give it a whack of a trim off and then smell inside.
Yeah.
So I've got now, after a sort of a clean up and a trim, it is a very gentle cheese, but it's got some really lovely sort of cereal and dairy aromas coming off it, but it is very gentle.
It is. It's subtle, isn't it? I mean, that's which again, no bad thing. I mean, you want contrast in them. It's just not as the pungency we've had, certainly from the first cheese. You've really got to work for it. But again, not necessarily a bad thing.
Agreed. I think to note as well that we're not sort of comparing this against strong pungency. So it's not that it's not strong that we would mark it slightly lower. It's just for what we're smelling off this, the aromatics are very, very hidden and muted for me. They are nice and they're clean, but there's not much coming off it. So I'm sort of 7.
Yeah.
7 for the aroma. Going to the texture of the cheese.
So this feels quite pudgy, as if it could possibly be a washed curd or just a slightly young batch. I really like these. I call them chubby babies. Like you want to squish their cheek and so this texture I really, really like.
That is quite a chubby baby, but you know, we like chubby babies. That's good to say. Yeah, hopefully it's smiling as we squeeze its cheek. But
I think texturally it's very, very even, so it's very consistent. It is elastic. It maybe could do with just giving it a squish. I don't really know if it's sort of sitting between two textures. That's the only thing I'd say. Is it trying to be a chubby baby, or is it an immature hard cheese? So I'm not quite sure if that was intentional.
Yeah, it's interesting when as you taste it, when it gives you that indication of whether you think, oh, that makes sense. You know, why you know, it's all culminating in the flavour, isn't it? And I have to say, I just think that's really pleasant and complex and interesting, and again, complete contrast to our other cheeses. But I like the balance and in the mouth, the texture in the mouth. You know, it works. It's yeah.
I think before scoring texture, I just want to sort of note as well that with this style of cheese, I would assume that most people would cut the rind off. However, I have eaten the rind. We're in washed rind category, and I eat all rinds really, just to see what they're like.
Build up your antibodies. Good, very good. Yeah.
I think it's got a nice sort of earthy Tom style natural rind element to it on the rind itself. A slight bitter, but that's possibly because we're not supposed to eat it, or possibly it's not a chemical bitter. It's a nice sort of vegetal one, and it does give a textural contrast if you do want to eat it. But I'm not sure what the producer would suggest that we do. I just like rinds.
And it's certainly not unpleasant, the rind. It's I say I have to eat rind. I always think it's doing me good. You know, it's funny, particularly in artisan cheeses. I might be completely wrong, but you know, building up your antibodies, it's
totally, yeah.
it's the whole thing. But
you like the texture as much as I do.
Yeah. But and that cheese has rather taken me by surprise. It's just not what I thought it was going to be. I don't know what I thought. But and what's good, you know, however many 4 cheeses, 5 we're in, it still stands out as a good cheese, but it's a much more subtle cheese, but it's not completely dominated by what's gone before it.
I completely agree. No, I always like to make sure that people are tasting the not underdogs, but the more subtle flavors. So you don't just want to taste the winner because it's the strongest. I think this is incredibly refined. I think there's buttery, grassy, dairy elements. It's really rounded. It's got a nice savory note. It's subtle but complex, so there's lots of different subtleties happening within it. It's also really taken me by surprise. For texture, I'm quite high. I'm happy with sort of 8.5, 9.
Yeah, 8.5.
8.5.
8.5.
And then where do you want to sit it for flavour?
My flavour's 9 for me. I think it's really, I think it's a really lovely flavour.
I agree, and I'm really happy we're giving this a 9 because it is subtle, and it's really, really difficult to make subtle flavours taste good in products. So this is a really well executed cheese.
And I combine that with the mouthfeel and everything. It's just that finish. But tasting beers, it's quite easy. You tend to do low alcohol to high, or you might have the darker, the porters, stouts at the end. So you can graduate your tasting. Cheese is more difficult here. I don't know the criteria of how the order was come about. Some of these are whole cheeses, some of them are wedged from a bigger truckle. But I still think that in what's gone before it, it's great, but you can still appreciate a lovely cheese like this. And it is a lovely, subtle, interesting, well-made cheese. We should be very proud of that, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're done with this cheese. Moving on to the next cheese, E21043.
That's the one in the box, square box.
Sorry, I'm going to write that down again. The 1043.
1043, yes.
So this one is back to sort of small format wash. By the look of it, it's quite sort of pinky hued and tacky, so one would assume that it would really stink, but it's got quite a lovely aroma. It's clean, it's got some really fun sort of hard to pinpoint minerality or something happening which isn't just a funk, and I'm really enjoying that. It looks like it would punch you in the face, but the aroma is really pleasing.
Good.
Visually, sorry, I think it looks great. It's got a nice almost a bulging shape to it. So this is a generous looking square. It doesn't look flat like it's drained poorly. It looks really, really generous and appealing. I do like the colouring to it. As a monger, it's making me want to put gloves on, but that's not an issue. That would generally might mean it's got a lovely flavour, but it does look like one you would sell as a whole in this lovely box. This is perfect. This is excellent, because mongers like to have ease for selling cheeses.
Do you think of also the difference in the aging process and everything? This is a complete cheese in entirety in its box. The previous one was a piece of a much bigger cheese.
Yeah.
Completely different in the journey, the way they're to be sold, the way they can physically be sold in a shop. Really two completely contrasting cheeses. It's great, but you can see that in France.
Exactly. So appearance wise on the outer, I think it's beautiful. It does have that sort of tacky thing that I mentioned in one of the other cheeses. However, the color is way more vibrant. It looks a lot more sort of pinky orange and yeah, just a bit more vibrant than the other one. And in the paste, it's got lots of lovely holes, slightly bigger on one side, but then I wouldn't say they're not uniform.
No, mine are uniform.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think of the appearance?
Yeah, it's great. As you say, it is quite tacky, but I think that's the way inevitably it's going to be, isn't it? So, but I think that it's a good looking cheese, and I love the consistency, and I love the texture of the pâté.
I love the look of this. The only thing I can now see, which is not an enormous issue, is that the bottom rind is slightly thicker than the top, but I don't care, and I don't think that will affect it in any way. That might just be my square, for instance, but mine's got sort of almost a double thickness rind at the bottom to the top. But I think this is an absolutely stunning looking cheese. I really think this looks beautiful.
Yeah, mine's it's not as pronounced as yours, I don't think.
How much would you score for the appearance?
A lot. I'm up at a 9.
Yeah, go with that.
Yeah.
A 9 for the appearance.
Okay.
Moving to the aroma.
It's changed. So now it's cut open and I'm not just smelling the surface. It's good. I mean, you can smell the difference between the paste and the rind. It's very sort of savory. Doesn't really describe an aroma, but it's got savory flavors, which it's reminding me of. So sort of maybe sort of soy umami brothy things happening, but also a really nice sort of more sprightly dairy and dairy acidity coming from it as well. It's quite a lot going on.
I'm getting like a milk pudding type of. It's the early stages of a junket or a something of these old Victorian
nice.
puddings. I get that, but with an extra complexity to it. That is some umami.
Yeasty as well, like in a good yeasty way. So I've got something sort of quite just like bread yeast, something slightly malty maybe as well.
Yeah.
I like the aroma. I'm quite high again, not as high as the appearance for me, but where are you?
Yeah, no, I am. It just keeps delivering lots of different things. That's the joy of it. As it breathes a bit, once we cut into it, it becomes. I think 8.5. You know what I mean? I'm happy.
I think if we're going to sort of look back slightly and judge this as a whole, I think 8.5. I think this is a very, very lovely aroma.
Good.
There's lots happening. I'm happy with 8.5.
Yeah. 8.5. Into the texture of the cheese. Texture's
delicious. I really, really like this. We're on Chubby Baby again, but different type of Chubby Baby. So it's again very typical of northern France, some continental recipes. It's a really nice chubby custardy, not custard, but springy texture. The rind for me, again, I think this works really well together. So it's not integrated in the paste in a way of it eating in, but I think texturally together they work incredibly well. Another thing I call this kind of cheese is a session cheese. Yeah. So something that I do want to keep going and going and going and going.
Yeah, go back to
similar to a session ale. Just
exactly,
yeah.
So text,
cider alongside it or something, just to cut through that acidity.
Ever so slight granularity and sandiness on the rind is the only thing that would bring this down for me. Possibly a tiny bit of chew, but I am enjoying the texture of the rind. It's not a papery chew. It is a nice rindy chew. Texturally for me, I'm still up at sort of 8.5. Where are you?
8.5.
Yeah, I give 8.
8. 8's fine.
8. 8 for the texture. How's the flavor looking?
So one of the things when I say session cheese generally means that the flavor is slightly more subdued than perhaps a really massive punchy whack. So for me, this is perhaps undersalted slightly. I was expecting more from the flavor.
Yeah, me too. I think the most disappointing thing about this cheese so far is the flavor.
It's such a shame.
It's a real pity because everything else up to this point, you think, wow, this is going to be great. And just seems to be lacking a few layers of complexity to me. I was looking for a little bit more oomph, a bit more drive, a little bit, which you said could be salt. Just, it's a bit pappy in the middle ground in the mouth, I think.
Yep. As we said, it's very unfortunate because everything else was leading to this being a real stonking cheese, but it has let itself down at the flavor. And so, yeah, we'll have to bring it down quite a lot, I think.
Yeah.
Where are you?
7. Yeah, it's quite a generous 7. Yeah.
I think, yes. Okay, fine. 7. Yeah.
But, I think 6, but it's certainly no more than a 7. And even...
It's not more than a 7. I think 7 is on the more generous side because it's quite flat. So 6.5, 7's fine.
Yeah. Okay.
7 for the flavor.
Just to note, it's not an unclean flavor. It's a very clean flavor. We just wanted a bit more happening from it.
Just disappointing because everything else was leading up to it, and you think, oh wow, and it's just like, well, yeah, that was all right, but it, where's a little bit more to it than that.
Yeah.
Next cheese would be E21039.
So we're back to larger format.
Yeah.
This looks very much like a sort of a melting raclette type style. Lovely golden paste, so possibly a different type of cow's milk, possibly Jersey, Guernsey, or just something with a bit more of that sort of fat.
Yeah, that fat content. I have got quite an unevenness on my rind. So I've got sort of a bald patch here and then some white. It's a little bit uneven, which I wouldn't expect for a washed rind like this because you generally wash them all in one go. Yeah.
So I would expect to have seen a slightly more even coating on the rind, but
And
the paste
as well. Is you getting a little few light patches?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's quite, yeah, it's quite patchy. The paste itself, the colour looks lovely. The holes are marginally inconsistent, but I wouldn't call that a fault.
No.
But the rind is looking a little bit like it could do with a more even wash for me.
These Lottie straw biscuits have been designed just to be eaten with cheese as a tasting. So
Really?
they're meant to be quite bland, so they do disadvantages.
What do you think of the appearance, Nigel?
Well, as you say, it was a little patchy, and it's, you know, the air pockets are pretty consistent. Yeah, it looks 7.5, 8.
I'll go 7.5 highest, I think, just because it's not something that really should happen to a rind like this. 7.5, okay? Yeah. Cool.
7.5 for the appearance. Moving to the aroma of the cheese.
Different to everything I've smelt so far. So more grassy, herbal, vegetal, lots of different flavour notes, aromas coming off this one so far.
It's definitely a spring grass type element. It's a much more of a formed. If you nose that, you wouldn't think it's a wash rind cheese, particularly. Maybe just there's a touch of char, maybe even tobacco-ish on the finish. But initially, it's much more floral and meadowy.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a pleasant nose. It is, like we said, different to everything so far, but that's the joy and the beauty of tasting different styles of cheese within the same category. I quite like the nose.
Yeah, no, I do.
It's not the most okay, so it's definitely not in your face, but I think it could do with perhaps just a tiny dial up in the volume on the aroma. Well, I would be expecting slightly more, and that could come with perhaps more of a wash or more of a consistent wash. But on the aroma, it is still really pleasing. So I'm sort of 7.5.
Yeah. I'm happy with that.
Okay.
7.5 for the aroma. Moving to the texture of the cheese.
Firmer to the cut than I was expecting.
Yes, it's quite solid. Definitely. So it's, yeah, quite dense. And yeah, that's definitely not a chubby baby. That's more like a muscular teenager who's doing a lot of sport.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a nice. It's dense. It's very dense. It's toothsome. I am enjoying the texture, though. I don't think it's uneven or incorrect for what the maker wants this to be like. It is very much more dense than I think both of us were expecting. But I am quite enjoying that texture.
Yeah. And again, it's a real contrast to some of the others, but that's not a bad thing. So,
quite like it.
Yeah, I do.
8.
8, yeah, absolutely. That's what I was going to say.
8 for the texture. Moving on to the flavor of the cheese.
That charcoal bit I picked up on my nose originally. I get one of the last notes on the finish. Again, it's not unpleasant, but certainly it's got a layered taste, and that's not a bad thing. That's what I like in cheese. It comes at you in different layers, but that initial floral notes we got on my nose are there, but then there comes a bit more weight afterwards. Again, yeah, very different, you know, into some of the other cheese we've had.
Yeah, agreed. I think one thing to note with what this style looks like it's supposed to be is that it's not supposed to be the most complex, rich, like layer upon layer upon layer upon layer kind of cheese, but I think it still does have layers within it, so that's quite a nice thing to find in this style. I do enjoy the I am getting that sort of grassy hay maybe feeling coming through on the flavor, but I do think it is slightly muted, so I have got some lovely flavors, but just a tiny dial up on those same flavors I think would make me score this slightly higher.
Yeah, still, you know, very pleasant. And have you chomped your way through some rind?
I have. It's got ever so slightly granular thing on the rinds, but I do enjoy the texture generally without the distraction of the sandy part. I think the chew and the texture of the rind is quite fun, and the flavour that comes off it is a little bit sort of gamey, maybe offally, but I like that. I think it's part of this style. Where are you sitting on flavour?
Well, I like it. It does deliver lots of different things at different stages, you know, in your mouth and in your stomach. It's like, it's not an enigma, it's an interesting cheese. So I would go for 8.
Yeah, exactly what I was going to say. I'm happy with that. Yeah.
8 for the flavor. Moving on to the next cheese, E21035.
Okay.
So this one hasn't enjoyed being wrapped or traveling, so I'm going to give it a pretty extensive trim.
Okay. Sarah, are you dipping in and out of other tastings? So you know, good. Well done.
Whizzing in and out, sorting issues and then whizzing back in, and keeping an eye on you all, and also enjoying the entertainment.
Well, it's very good for me as well to do, you know, to be involved with the tasting side. It's just, you know, and you know, the concentration of the subtleties of the cheeses within one. The range of flavors is immense. We haven't come across a bad cheese at all. There's certainly a real range in complexities but you know, it's been.
Yeah, I think it's so good that they kind of involved, and then you can kind of do a bit of feedback on what it's day in the life of a virtual cheese judge, can't you? When you.
I would definitely say to Sandra as well, that beautifully presented and wrapped. You know, there's a lot of thought gone into this, and it really it helps show the cheese off in the best light. You know, it's really professionally done. You know, the whole. You know, it's a thing of beauty, just the wrapping to get them to us in this state. So yeah.
Good.
Nigel, mine is looking a little bit battered. Can you show me yours?
Yeah, so it's of all of them.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, just looks.
So I've tried to trim it as much as possible to get into, but it does look slightly battered still.
Yeah. I think we're going to be generous and go to the heart.
Yeah. So the paste itself has got a really lovely texture. I really enjoy the look of that one. It's got a nice spring to it. It is uniform. It looks like I want to put it in my mouth and I'll enjoy that mouthfeel. The rind, however, not as much. And this rind is definitely an integral part of this cheese, and I don't think it's showing the best that it could. So you can see here it's got quite a lot of dark patches around the rind here. It's uneven in its wash, which is unfortunate.
I'm getting that here, which is a pity. But
so appearance wise, unfortunately for me, it is going to be quite low, because that is such an integral part of this style of cheese. So paste it looks delicious. The paste looks really nice and springy and vibrant, and if you could look at that without the rind, then it would be really high, but it is a big part, the rind. So I'm down at sort of a 6.
yeah, I'll go with that.
6 for the appearance. Moving on to the aroma of the cheese.
Yeah, but again, marmitey, yeasty, savoury notes to it. I'm trying to get into it, whether that's the nose that was intended. I think so. I think it is. It's so Sarah, we've had some really contrasting cheeses, which is great actually in this category. But you know, some obviously these are complete cheese. We've had a couple which are part of a much bigger truckle, and quite different texturally. So
I think this cheese, as you said, has got aromas which are quite savoury, umami, marmitey. I'm wondering whether it's missing some sort of fruit or some vibrancy. It may not be at all. It may be that this is what the producer intends, but to me it feels like it's missing a layer.
It's very difficult. I think almost with the nose, once you taste it, it'll give you more of an idea, you know, when you come back. So you could judge it now, but I'm thinking it will be really influenced by how it tastes.
Agreed.
If it's a great taste, you'll think, oh, that's fine. But if it's slightly worrying in the mouth, then that's really what the nose might have confirmed, or it just confirms what the nose told you.
I think for aroma, for me, it's higher than the appearance. It's not as low down, but it's not hugely complex or vibrant for me. I'm only up at maybe a 7, I think, for aroma.
Yeah.
7.
Texture, I like the paste texture a lot. The rind is incredibly inconsistent.
Yeah.
So you have some dry bits, some chewy bits, some washed bits. I don't really think this rind knows what it wants to be in this particular batch, which is a shame. I'm going to have to be quite heavily influenced by the rind texture on this because it is such a big part. So I'm happy to stick around a 7 because the appearance is definitely the lowest score. But tell me what you think on texture.
Yeah, I think I'd go with 7. That's quite a generous 7, but
it is a generous 7, maybe 6.5.
Yeah, I think that's really
6.5 for the texture. Moving on to the flavor of the cheese.
It's very salty, so I've got a lot of salt, some sort of iodine-y, salty mineral things, and not much else on the flavor of this one for me.
Cheesemaker would be disappointed with that sample, I think.
I agree. I think this is, I completely agree.
Yeah, it's a pity. I'm sure this is a much better cheese when it's actually tasting at the moment.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. All our slightly worrying notes on the nose are confirmed when you taste it. You know, it wasn't as enticing as it. You know, it was all right. Just because I don't think it's, you know, not just because of the journey. I just don't think where it is, not journey here, but the journey of this cheese is it's lacking in it's certainly lacking in fruit and floral notes, and it's, you know, this is the cheese that's least impressed us without doubt, I would have thought, and that's because it's you know, it's dominated by salt and everything. It's just it's sadly, because I'm absolutely certain that it's not what was intended.
Completely agree. I completely agree, and I think it's feedback on this particular batch. So I think that's something. It's not this cheese as a whole. I think it's something that the cheesemaker could look at, that what happened in this particular batch. But unfortunately, for what we're judging today, this is what we have.
Yeah.
And for me, that means the flavour is going to have to go quite low as well. Where are you sitting?
Yeah. Oh, it's a 4.5.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not great though. 4.5 or 5. 5. Yeah, generous.
5.
5.
Yeah.
5 for the flavor. Next cheese would be E21221.
What? This
Nice.
doesn't look as vibrant on the camera as it is in real life, but this is very orange. So, have you got yours?
Yeah, 1, 2, 2, 1.
Yeah.
1221.
Show me on the camera, Emma. I'll try and do a photo of it.
Hold on, let me see where's the most orange. Maybe I don't think you can see the colour.
Yeah, you can actually. Yeah, you
Yeah.
can. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so very, very, very vibrant orange. Definitely an artisanal make. It's very inconsistent in its height. It's got a slightly I like the size. The size is really nice, and it's definitely a cheese that style and size that I would look at buying. The rind, however, for me around the perimeter is really, really dry, and it's got some slightly irregular white molds or crystal formation around the edges, which doesn't make it look really, really appealing.
Yeah, I got that as well. Looks like someone's sprinkled very fine sawdust around it, but it's a pity because again it's probably artisan cheese, but possibly a little too much so.
The paste itself, I really love the colour, so it's quite ivory in colour, quite big holes, but in a sort of a soft mixed coagulation cheese way. I don't think they're like really bad holes. It's got a bit of a breakdown beneath the rind, which is lovely, like a bit of a pudge, but it does look quite dry as a whole. So if I do this, it cracks immediately.
Yeah.
Which I wouldn't expect to happen on a wash rind. It may be an overwash. Maybe they've used a little bit too much water to wash it, and it's gone the other way and slightly dried itself. What do you think of the appearance?
Yeah, I think I'm not sure if you can really see it, but it is quite. Mine is quite dry in the middle. It is quite, but it's not consistent throughout. So yeah, that would be my initial thing, but it does look quite dry and solid. It's a chunky, solid cheese.
Yeah.
Very dense the texture.
Yeah.
So yeah, 7. Or was that?
6.5.
Yeah, fine.
6.5 for appearance.
Aroma, really brassica, like loads of cauliflower and stewed veg, which is a good. I mean, I like those flavors. I generally pick them up more on a bloomy rind, but I like them.
I'm getting brothy notes, as in like a meat broth or even mutton broth or something.
Nice.
Yeah, it smells like you walked into a kitchen and something's been boiling away happily for a few hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bit of ammonia, touch of ammonia on the rinds that's coming through, but not anything to throw it out of my shoulder. It's got some nice aromas. Aroma for me, I'm probably about a 7.
Nigel?
Yep, I'm happy with that. I think it's it's definitely an intriguing aroma, and we all just down to the flavour again, just confirming the taste, of a nose really. But
Moving on to the texture of the cheese.
It's really dry, so I've tried to cut a piece off and it's sort of broken in the wrong part.
also crumble a bit really.
Yeah. The actual broken down part beneath the rind is nice. It's just not evenly matured. and the rind is gritty.
Six, was that? Yeah.
6 is fine. Flavour, I'm getting the things that you mentioned you had on aroma. So that kitchen, broth, ramen, umami, soy sauce, those kind of things. So it's quite a lot of nice flavours coming through on that. However, I find it's slightly disjointed.
The finish is the thing for me. It's just, you know, I'm immediately reaching for some apple juice or something. It needs, not just to break it down. I could just do with more fruit, floral notes coming through. At the moment, it's a little bit caustic, a bit harsh. It's you know, the dry element in it comes through as making it quite, you know, harsh on the finish. I think. I don't think. How do you feel having just had it now? I mean, you're thinking, oh, that's great, nice flavour. A couple of minutes later, or let's move on.
Let's move on, I'm afraid. So for me, it did have some initial interest in those flavours, but it's disjointed. I don't think it quite moulds together properly, and I think that would be a lot to do with not just the flavour profile, but all of the other elements that we've mentioned already. So I'm about a 6.5.
Yeah. I'll go 6.5. I think this cheese feels like it's gone over a bit, but maybe a week or so or two before. I don't know.
I'm really not sure. I don't know if it has. I think it's.
You don't think it ever got there?
No.
That's fair enough.
Mm.
That makes sense, and it's not going to either.
No. Yeah.
I see that.
Moving on to the next cheese,
Yeah.
E21210.
Because we were actually, you know, we're on a roll, but it's
Yeah.
just. It's
1210 was that? Sorry.
1210. Yes.
Cool. So back again to larger format and not necessarily pinky orange washes. So this could have had just a little initial wash. It could be natural rind with a couple of washes, but yeah, it's a different style, which is nice to show the differences within the category.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, on the rind straight away, I'm getting some really black molds, some slight sort of tacky element, and the rind is quite inconsistent, which is not always an issue, but the rind molds don't look like they may be the intended molds from the don't take a picture of the producer.
Yeah.
Also got a weird patch here, like a
Yeah.
see that it looks sort of like a blister. Have you got those?
No, I haven't.
Hmm.
I've got one tiny type. It's much smaller than yours. So do they come to us as a whole cheese and we chop them up and send them out? Or do they come to us already pre-packaged like this?
No, so they all come pre-packaged, and then the kind of partner who is doing all the coordination and the collation takes them all out and puts them into boxes. So the entrant is really responsible for making sure that the cheese arrives in good condition and in kind of suitable packaging.
So when I said about you know, like a beautifully wrapped cheese, like it's cleverly done, that's actually how it arrives with us.
So that has come how the entrant packaged it, yes, yeah, because otherwise I think we could be accused of not doing it correctly. And so really, if you enter your actual cheese, you take responsibility for how you package, send it into the
That makes
partner.
sense. Yes, definitely.
But what I would say is that the treatment of the cheeses once they arrive is obviously really important. And Roger and Sandra were really almost fanatical that the cheeses weren't going to be collated and boxed up and closed until just before the courier came to take them. So They were collated into boxes on the Friday and left open over the weekend, and the boxes were only closed up once they were collected for the judging transportation. So thank you very much to White Lake for trying to keep the cheeses in as good condition as possible.
Yes, that's nice to hear. Great.
It's really good to hear, but unfortunately what that means is that some of these things that we're picking up on now well, they would definitely have come from the producer.
Yeah, because I'm really confident that the handling of it was fantastic when it was.
Absolutely, no doubt from this end as well. So
your camera is more pronounced than mine.
Mine's like black and wet.
I haven't got that. I've got a little bit, but nothing like you have.
I've also got, if you can see here, I've got bits throughout, some weird blisters. It's a very inconsistent paste and rind from my piece, and it doesn't scream to me that I want it immediately. Unfortunately, I like the format. I like the actual color of the paste itself. I love that it's a natural rind. However, there are some molds on that natural rind which I don't know if they were fully intended to come through from the producer, and I've got weird blisters, so it's
apart from that, but yeah, no, I've got a little bit of mold inside it as well, but again, you're not as pronounced as yours. But
maybe we have to middle ground it then in terms of appearance, because mine looks completely different to it.
Yeah, but also yes, but you've got to knock it back because it's not quite as it. So 7,
6.5, please.
6.5, yeah, fine. Yeah, mine's better than yours.
Yeah.
6.5 for appearance. Aroma wise.
6.5 was appearance, yes. But just jumping ahead to the to aroma, it's gosh, it reminded me of something really distinctly. What is it? It's almost like muesli notes. There's a lot going.
Yeah, and there's something like a nice sour milk aroma I've got as well.
Yeah.
It's a
like
few.
Buttercream.
Buttermilk.
Like that,
Yeah.
buttermilk, yeah. Nice.
Aroma for me, it's clean. There's no, as much as I may have mentioned things for appearance, there are no dirty or unclean aromas coming through on this cheese.
That's very clean and again very subtle, but it's a lovely spring into summer cheeses. There's lots of.
I think for me, I'm sitting around maybe a 7, I think, for aroma.
Yeah, really pleasant, subtle, great outdoors. It's just everything's beginning to bud. It's perfect cheese this time of year.
You're making me want to eat more of it now. I mean, that sounds delicious. So yeah, aroma wise, are you around a similar 7-ish?
I think it's better than that.
Okay.
I think it's 7.5. It's subtle. It's not, but no, I like it.
I'll go to 7.5.
Okay, well that's good.
7.5 for the aroma.
Take that now, bang. Well, you know.
How is it texture wise?
Again,
I like it.
It is. This is a chubby baby that's been working out.
Correct. We're making a chart of chubby babies. I think it's definitely got a bit more structure, a bit more texture, slightly more toothsome than the chubbiest of chubby babies. But I'm really enjoying this texture. You're not?
Yeah, no. I am. It's quite solid in the mouth. It's quite. You've got to work at that quite. Not a bad thing. I'm reluctant to taste the rind, I have to say. I'm
not going to taste the rind on this one.
We have been tasting the rind, Sarah, just as we would normally. But no, not on this one.
You're not tempted to that one then, no?
No. 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 It's not picking up that.
That's a clear no. Okay.
Do you think it's a confused texture then?
Yeah, I just think it's certainly making your mandibles work quite hard. I don't think that's a bad thing. It tasted amazing, and it was leading on to, I would immediately be distracted by, wow, never mind that. What about the flavour?
Yeah.
And actually, I'm not getting that on the flavour. I thought it would be more from the nose. I thought it would be a bit more complex and interesting, and you might get that, but I'm trying not to lead the jury, but I don't really. Sad that.
I think for texture and flavour, I'm pretty similarly around a 6.5, 7, 6.5 maybe.
6.5, yeah.
6.5 for both texture and flavor.
For me, yes. What do you think?
Sorry, say again.
For both of them, for texture and flavour?
Yeah, the flavour, it just falls away a bit, and I just, from the nose, you hope that the palate will just confirm what the nose has already told you. In this case, I was expecting a bit more.
Same.
Going on to the next cheese,
Yep.
the E21191.
We're nearly into bowl territory, I think, Nigel, or drop cloth.
Right.
There's a couple of really softies towards the end. This one's soft, but I think it will still hold. I'm going to keep it on the paper though.
Who's the number?
E21191.
Well, yeah.
Cool. So small format, lovely orangey hue, not a little bit bumpy. I don't think it's uneven in the way that it's been ladled or anything. It's just, you can tell it's got quite a liquid center.
Yeah.
It's even everywhere. There's no discoloration underneath it. So they've obviously flipped it and washed it in the right ways. It is going to go everywhere when I cut it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a waterbed, Nigel. Mine is anyway.
Right.
Ooh, yeah.
Ooh.
We're all waiting with anticipation.
No, it's okay. That's quite photogenic. It's definitely not going to hold, but
Wow.
I'm not going to take it off the paper. Whoa, yeah, no, it's peeled the rind off the bottom, so it's maybe a little bit too ripe, or it's not designed to come out the paper, which is slightly irregular, but it's stuck to the bottom paper, so you'd have to really scrape. Yours is out properly. Wrong with mine.
It is just before you. I mean, just jumping ahead.
Oh.
Once you take out the paper, but the aroma, it might settle down a bit, but mine was pretty punchy, and felt like it had just been unwrapped. So I'm just giving it a moment just to.
I'm back in bodily and slight ammonia.
I didn't.
Oh.
Oh, great! Let's try this. Oh my goodness, where are we going with this one?
Exactly. So appearance, before cutting into it, I really like the coating of the rind. I think it's got a lovely orangey pink hue. The texture itself is going to appeal to loads of people. It is really soft and gooey. However, from a sort of a technical perspective, it is slipping out, and the rind is, for mine, sticking to the paper. I had to sort of scrape it to pick it up. So what do we haven't done anything yet, have we? So appearance. No, Nigel, what do you think?
Quite anemic. Mine's certainly not as gooey as yours, but it's definitely on that side, but it's not running away. 6.5.
6.5
Aroma.
for appearance.
Mine hasn't settled. So it's quite volatile, quite bodily. I'm going to stick with bodily.
That ammonia bodily, but it's not. You just, I'm looking for a rich creaminess or floral notes or anything of those, and I'm sadly not getting it on this occasion.
No. Aroma for me, I don't know, where do you want to put it? Like 5, 6, 5.
5.5. No, 5. It's not. You know, I wouldn't. If I smelt that, I wouldn't think. Oh yeah, I wouldn't really want to try it. So
No, 5. Texture for me. Just want to taste the rind texture quickly. Feel them out. Can't even pick it up. My rind isn't gritty, so I thought it could be kind of sandy and gritty. It's not. So it's a smooth rind, and it isn't chewy, so that's good. The paste itself is two-tone, but it is slipping out. So the middle has got a chalky heart, but the rest of it is just coming out. It's not kept its structure at all. Like I said, this would be perfect for Instagram. This would be an absolutely beautiful cheese, but in terms of handling and technically, just texture-wise, I can't score this too highly either.
no, mine's not as bad as yours. Mine's, you know, much more consistent and not oozing around. So we should somewhere. You know, let's split it. Say 6.
Fine.
Yeah, that's all right.
6 for texture. Move on to the flavor.
Yeah, it doesn't. Again, what we get on the nose, it's not as punchy or as weighty as I thought it was going to be in a bad sense.
I'm finding quite a volatile acidity.
Yeah, it's just
and bitter.
It's bitter. That's the thing. That's what. It's the overriding. It's got a bitter finish to it, unfortunately, and yeah.
I think the bitter's distracting me away from most other flavors. There is a bit of fruit, a bit of sort of savory trying to creep through, but overall it has got a big spike of acidity and a big spike of bitter as well. So I'm down at a 5.
Yes, and I think the cheesemaker would be disappointed with that.
I agree. I think that maybe a different age profile of this cheese possibly, or I'm not sure, maybe on this one.
They want to revisit this and check that batch again.
I think so.
That's 5 for flavor. Going on to the next cheese.
Yeah.
E21192.
I'm still in water beds. And the last one is, yeah.
Can I just check, Gautam, how many more cheeses have they got to go?
2.
Just 2 more. This one and the next one.
Sorry, my name's not Gotham.
1192, was it?
Go whiz out and whiz back in again.
Yeah.
It's going to whiz out and whiz back in again. Something else requires my attention. Thank you.
Yeah, so 1192. This is yeah, quite pale. Nice shape, nice size. My rind is quite pale on this one.
It's very similar to the previous one, but it's a better version. And
yeah, I'm gonna cut into this again, but mine feels again very waterbeddy. What this is showing though is perhaps if mine is more waterbeddy than yours, that it's a bit of inconsistency throughout the same batch because they'll be from the same batch. Wow, that's, take a photo of that because that actually does look delicious. Where's my phone? Back. So
you can see the stretch from here.
yeah. It looks better.
Oh,
I mean, I don't know if it's the same cheese, but it's a similar style, if not.
Yeah.
So appearance for me, I like that the appearance looks very similar to a different type of continental cheese, so more of a Eastern France kind of look, minus a spruce band. However, I think, yeah, the texture internally looks really nice. It is one that needs to be eaten immediately.
Yes.
So that's either incredibly good judgment from the cheesemaker, which we're going to go with, but it would need to be eaten quite quickly. And yeah, so appearance, I like the look of it. It's just slightly pale for me. What about you?
Yeah, no, I do. I think it's yeah. I mean, it is quite pale and anemic, but I'm not going to knock it down for that. I think that's what they've intended. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm loving the conditioning of it. I think it's just look at that lovely creamy. It's just really. And it's funny, once you cut into it, it's like always, you give it a few minutes, moments, just let it breathe a bit once you nose it, you know, once you cut into it, because initially, but that's a living, breathing thing, you know, you've got to allow it that a bit. And I love that about it.
I like the appearance now. I think it is ever so slightly slippy, but I think it's actually brilliant though.
Yeah, immediately think, God, better eat that now.
Yeah, exactly. So what score would you like to give it?
9.
Yeah.
8.
Yeah, 9.
9 for the appearance. Moving on to the aroma.
Not as high for me.
No, me neither. It's again, it's the farmyardy notes. It's like standing cattle ready, you know. It's a bit organic and not in a great way, but it's not bad. It's just I would look for a little bit more enticing, creamy floral notes. Yeah,
or just less of the cattle curing and less of the slight ammonia I've got as well. So I'm down at about a 6 for aroma.
What? Yes.
I'm down at about a 6, I think, for aroma.
Yeah.
6 for aroma.
Sit down.
Now the texture and flavor.
Texture, I'm going to go for mouthfeel because texturally we love the look of it.
Yeah, we do. We're definitely going to eat the rind.
It's nice. It's really sort of silky custardy in the paste. You've got a slight chew on the rind, which is nice. It's a welcome chew. It's not a bad chew.
It gives it a little bit of interest and definition, doesn't it?
Yep. I like the texture. Maybe, have you got anything else you think about the texture?
I think this is cheese day for it today, but this cheese, it's absolutely spot on, really. So I think it's 8.5, 9. I'll give it a 9.
What don't I like about it? Yeah, 9. 9.
Yeah, I think
9 for the texture and flavor.
The flavor for me is slightly flatter than I wanted, which is very sad as it looks beautiful. So I think it could do with possibly a bit more salt, but just a little bit more of that sort of fruit that Nigel mentioned, the like fruity, maybe floral, something a little bit more vibrant, and it's incredibly flat.
Yeah, I agree.
I wouldn't throw it out of bed.
No. Different times. From on the radio, because we have to say, well, the story comes back at different times because obviously people do behave, quite. Yeah. So, yeah, it's pleasant, isn't it? But it's just, it's not going to be top of the class. It's going to be, trying hard, working hard, good. Yeah, the notes to feed back to the maker is it's a really lovely artisan cheese. It looks the part, and everything. It just needs to have a bit more of an interest to it in the mouth. And
what do you want to score it for flavour?
7.5. 7.
Oh,
yeah. You think? What do you think?
7.
7. Yeah. Okay. 7. Fine. I'm happy.
7 for the flavor.
Right there you go.
The texture, if that had more flavour, that I would want to. I would eat that whole thing immediately.
Yeah.
The last cheese.
You'd like the cheesemaker to taste it today and just want them to agree with us. We can say, yeah, I get it. It's not, Yeah. I'm sure there are other examples of this which were absolutely everything that we were looking for.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so last cheese.
Roger.
The last cheese is E21193.
Make great cheese.
Say that again, sorry.
The joy of people like Roger and some of the great, because cheesemakers is that they're so consistent.
Right.
You know, throughout the year, different cheese, they still make great, interesting cheese. It might subtly change because of the milk, but it's still a great cheese. And I think that's the real art, isn't it? You know.
Mhm. Yeah.
Right. Sorry, this one was
E21193.
1192.
1193.
Sorry, beg your pardon.
So spruce banded wash number.
Yeah.
Mine is very, 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 very ripe. Is yours? Yours doesn't look very, 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 very ripe.
No, not as right.
What did my delivery driver do? Or is batch inconsistent?
It is interesting the differences in our cheeses.
Yeah. I've put it straight into a bowl because mine is really liquidy, but yeah, let's see. So appearance wise, I like the spruce banding. I think it has got a fair amount of white mold or penicillium around the spruce banding, which is fine, but it's slightly hiding the aesthetic. The cheese itself is a tad pale on the rind, but yeah, let's see. Oh my god. Yeah, so I don't know if you can see, like, if mine is like liquid.
Yeah.
So texture wise, I'll be swayed by yours, I think, on this.
There was a significant difference in how you poked the knife into the cheese. Like, Emma, yours went very easily, just instantly.
Oh yeah, I didn't
And-
even need a knife. I could have probably just ripped it open. Yeah, you can see it looks like it's been baked already.
Yeah.
Which again, very, very appealing, very social mediaable, and I'm sure it's something that would be really fun to scoop out. But in terms of cutting it or keeping its texture and structure, it's mine isn't correct.
Yeah.
Appearance wise, what do you think of the look of it?
Well, mine was all right, and I like the banding. You know, it looked very rustic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fine. I think, and once I cut into it again, mine as fluid as yours.
I'm gonna go with yours from what I can see of yours, I think, because it's good to feed back to the producer that mine is complete liquid, but it doesn't look the same.
7.5, 8.
Sure.
That is 7.5 or an 8?
7.5, I think.
As an aggregate, definitely.
Aroma wise,
Cabbage. I like the spruce aroma. So around the band, you've got a really nice sort of resinous.
You really
Highly
pick that.
sprucey thing.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's nice. That's really lovely.
Clever to see how that comes through in the cheese or not. Because spruce is such a. Yes, it does smell quite unique, doesn't it? It's a really, yeah, I like that.
I really like the aroma. Even with my liquidy waterbed, it still smells amazing. I think I'm sort of 8.5, 9 for aroma.
I would give it 8.5, just because I'm getting lots of spruce and pine.
Right, and not anything else.
Yeah, but it's not. It's very pleasant, you know.
8.5
It's
sounds good.
8.5
I like
for
the
aroma.
brassica-y things I'm getting to, so I think maybe because mine might be slightly more mature than yours, I've got more aroma. So I have to do a compromise judge on this one.
Moving on to the texture.
I'm not really sure what to do. Let's do yours. I'll look at yours.
I mean, I've cut through it. It's absolutely perfect. It's just beginning to run away, but
not completely.
no, and when you know, it's on the knife. It's nice. It's perfect.
Okay, that looks lovely.
So, you know, and with the bands, It'll be 8.5 or 9. 8.5.
8.5, fine. Yep.
8.5 for texture. For the flavor.
Excuse etiquette. I'm going to eat off the knife. I don't have a spoon. I thought mine was moving a minute. It's not.
Sardinian maggot cheese.
No. This is sprucey. It's minerally. It's got kind of a chalky saltiness to it. It's quite simple in its direction for mine, and I would expect from the ripeness of mine to feel a little bit more of maybe brassica or wash or something. So mine's quite simple.
Yeah, I was looking for a bit more. Maybe the spruce has set you off, but it's still it's the spruce notes that dominate everything, and it's simple, too simple. You know, I'm looking for more rich creaminess, unctuousness. You know,
Yes.
Pointy part for me. I know you had one. Your appearance wasn't great because it was running away, but for me, mine was a much better looking cheese. But it's just, yeah, I'm disappointed in. You know, once I got it in the mouth, it's just.
I think what's notable is that with our two quite distinct looking cheeses, we've got the same opinion on the flavour. So even in the two different age profiles or maturing currently, they're both still flat. Where do you want to put it? Like 6?
Yeah.
6.5, 7.
Yeah, 7. But it's not.
It's not bad. It's just
Oh.
yeah, 7. Let's do 7.
7 for the flavor.
Cool.
With that we have finished all the cheeses for this class.
Oh.
And the cheese that has the highest score is E21055.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm happy with that. It's this one.
Yeah, just can you repeat the number? 1155. Was that the
Yeah.
chubby? Yeah.
1055, right?
1055. Was that the chubby teenager?
Yeah. Chubby baby. I'm happy with that. I think that was the one which really surprised us the most, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Now, that brings us to the end of this session. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Butler's Farmhouse Cheeses, for this Pride Wonderful apron. Also to Crafty Cheeseman for sponsoring this particular class. And also not last but not least, thank the wonderful judges, Emma Young and Nigel Barden. Thank you so much. Well appreciated to be on board of this virtual Cheese Awards. And for the viewers, it's been noted that on the 17th of May, there is this live event where you'll be judging best of classes in the categories Best English, Irish, Welsh, and Scottish cheeses, along with awards that recognizes talents and passionate people in the industry. Also, it's the day where we'll be crowning the champion for the year 2023 for the Virtual Cheese Awards. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you, judges.
Lottie Shaw biscuits as well. Very nice. I hope you got some somewhere, Emma.
Yeah, sorry, they're right here.
But they're basically they're really oaty, and you probably think, well, like a bit more salt or something, but they're designed just to be. They're being made specially to go with tasting the cheese, so they're not too dominant. But yeah, Gosham, thank you very much for guiding us through so seamlessly. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for watching.